Chapter 5, Lesson 4 deals with dividing rational numbers. So first, let's start with some definitions. So a multiplicative inverse or a reciprocal, they mean the same thing. They are two numbers whose product is 1. Remember, product deals with multiplication. So when you multiply these two numbers, your answer should be 1. Okay, an example of that is like 1/2. The multiplicative inverse of 1/2 is 2/1. If you multiply those, you get 2/2, which equals 1. That's a multiplicative inverse. This is actually a property. It is called the inverse property of multiplication. And all that says is that the product of a number and its multiplicative inverse is 1. So the inverse property of multiplication just pretty much tells you what the definition of a multiplicative inverse is. It is just the product of a number and its multiplicative inverse is equal to 1. So if you look at the example above, that's what that shows. All right, let's go to example 1 and try some of these. For example 1, we need to find the multiplicative inverse of each number. So if we look at A, -6/11. If your original number is a negative, then your inverse is going to be a negative. So we know for this one that we have that negative. So we can put the negative. Then the multiplicative inverse, or the reciprocal, same thing, you just flip it. So if we have 6/11, our inverse is 11/6. That's your answer. You can double check yourself by multiplying it out if you want to. But you would see that the two 11s are going to cancel and the 6's are going to cancel, and you're going to be left with a 1. To find the multiplicative inverse of a mixed number, you need an improper fraction. So we need to change 5 1/4 to an improper fraction. So let's multiply and add. So 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1. We get 21/4. So the multiplicative inverse is just 4/21. All you have to do is flip it over. And that's your final answer. Okay, C is the same idea. So we have a -7. Well, let's turn that into a fraction. That's really just -7/1. Since we have the negative, our answer will have a negative. And then all we have to do is flip the fraction. So we get 1/7. And that is your answer. You just have to remember that the multiplicative inverse, or the reciprocal, is just the fraction flipped over. You will use the multiplicative inverse, the reciprocal, to divide fractions. When you are dividing fractions, what you really need to do is multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so for dividing fractions, to divide by a fraction, comma, multiply by its reciprocal. Okay, so you never really divide fractions. Instead of dividing, you multiply by the reciprocal. So if you think about it, so if we have 6 divided by 2, that equals 3. Well, the reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. If we do 6 times 1/2, we also get 3. They're the same thing. So dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. Let's move on to example 2. For example 2, we are asked to divide and then write the quotient in simplest form. Remember, you always need to simplify your fractions. So to divide, you keep the first number. So keep the first number. Keep. So keep the first number. Then you change. Change to multiplication. And then you flip the second number. So it becomes 5/3. I've heard a lot of people say KCF for this. Keep, change, flip. That is how you divide fractions. So once you keep the first one, change to multiplication, and flip the second one, then you just need to multiply straight across like normal. 1 times 5 is 5. 4 times 3 is 12. Make sure your fraction is as reduced as possible, and then you have your answer. Okay, let's look at B. B is the exact same idea. So we've got that negative, so let's just forget about it for right now. We'll put it down here so we have it for our answer at the end. We don't need it now, so we'll just put it down there. We keep the first fraction, change to multiplication, flip the second fraction. See if you can reduce. The 1 and the 5 can't, but we can do something with this 2 and 6. We can change it to a 1 and a 3. So we've got our negative for our answer, and 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 5 is 5 on the bottom here. So our answer is -3/5. Go ahead and pause the video and try C and D. Once you've finished them, start the video again and see how you did. Okay, so C, same idea again. So keep the first one, change to multiplication, flip the second one. Then you should have reduced, so this could become a 2, and this becomes a 1. This will become a 3, and this will become a 1. So then if we multiply straight across, you should have ended up with 2/3 as your answer. I hope that's what you found. Okay, and then D is the same idea. So keep 3/4, change to multiplication, flip the second one. Then we can do some canceling. So 3 and 3 will cancel to 1 and 1. 4 and 4. So we end up with 1/1, which is just 1. So you should have found 1. Those are reciprocals. If you notice that they were reciprocals of each other, you should have known automatically. Well, we're going to get a 1. Okay, let's go ahead and look at example 3, where we're dividing by a whole number. All right, for letter A, we are going to keep the first part, so that's a 12/1. Remember, any whole number is just over 1. Change to multiplication, and flip the second fraction. So this is no different than what you were doing before. Just keep in mind that a whole number is really just a fraction. The number is over 1. See if we can do any reducing. We can do the 12 and the 4. They can both be divided by 4. So we get a 3/1. Go straight across. 3 times 9 is 27. 1 times 1 is 1. So that just equals 27. And the same idea for B. So we have a -5/8. So keep that. Change to multiplication. And remember that this 4 is over 1, so we can flip it and it becomes -1/4. See if you can reduce anything. I don't think we can. So then just multiply straight across. Since they're both negative, our answer will be positive. 5 times 1 is 5. 8 times 4 is 32. And you are finished. We can't reduce anything. Go ahead and pause the video. try C and the other C, that should be a D. Sorry about that. And then come back when you finished and see how you did. Okay, for C, you should have kept the 6 over 5, changed to multiplication, flipped the 4 to 1/4. Then you could see that you could divide both of these by 2. If you multiply straight across, you should get 3 over 10. So hopefully you got 3 over 10 for this problem. Then D, we have a 15 over 1 times 12 over 7 when we flip that. See if we can reduce anything here. I don't think that we can. So then you just multiply straight across. 15 times 12 gives us 180. 1 times 7 is 7. We can leave it just like that. We're finished. Okay, let's go ahead and go to example 4, where we're going to deal with mixed numbers now. You're going to deal with mixed numbers the same way that you did before. Change them to be improper fractions, and then just follow the same method that we've been doing the whole time. So negative 1 and 1/9 will be a negative. Got the negative out front. Then we do 9 times 1, which is 9, plus 1, so we have 10 over 9. The 2/3 is fine. So let's change to multiplication and flip. So we get 3 over 2. See if you can cancel or reduce anything. Well, the 9 and the 3 can both be divided by 3. And the 10 and the 2 can both be divided by 2. Then remember that we've got that negative out front, so that negative will have to be in our answer. And then go straight across. 5 times 1 is 5. 3 times 1 is 3. And then we are finished. And B is the same idea, so except this time we need to change both of our fractions. So to change 3 and 3/10, we're going to do 10 times 3, which is 30, plus 3, so we have 33 over 10. And let's keep the division for now. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11 over 6. Now we can do our keep, change, flip, so keep the first one, 33 over 10. Change to multiplication, flip the second one. Let's do some reducing. So 33 and 11 can both be reduced by 11. So we get a 3 up here and a 1 down here. 10 and 6 can both be reduced by 2. So we end up with a 3 and a 5. If we multiply straight across, 3 times 3 is 9. 5 times 1 is 5. So we get 9 over 5 to be our final answer for that one. Go ahead and pause again and try C and D. Then when you finish them, restart the video and see how you did. For C, you should have changed 6 4/5 to 34 over 5. And you should have changed 3 6/7 to 27 over 7. Then you need to do your keep, change, flip, so you have 34 over 5 times 7 over 27. Then we need to look and see if we can reduce anything, and surprisingly we can't. 34 and 27 don't have anything in common, so we're just going to have to multiply straight across. 34 times 7, you should have gotten 238. 5 times 27 is 135. And you are finished. That's a very high, those numbers are very high, but there's nothing else you can do with them. All right, and then for D, you should have changed them both to improper fractions. So 5 times 2 is 10 plus 4, so we have 14 over 5. And 8 times 4 is 32, plus 3 is 35 over 8. Do your keep, change, flip. So we get 14 over 5 times 8 over 35. see if you can reduce at